Hi there, and welcome to this second live broadcast. We're looking this week at leading in times of uncertainty, and that's probably an understatement. So if you haven't checked out yesterday's live, you'll find it in the Facebook group. And one of the things I said yesterday was that we can only make decisions based on the information that we've got, and it's changing rapidly. And here in France, we've had Macron putting some or laying down some very, very stringent ways that we can be and not be. And I've had my text from the French government this morning, and we also have to have sign a form if we're going out and about, ticking the reason why we're going out and about. So wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this broadcast, you could get those things too. You may already have them. So we really have to just respond based on the information that we have at any time. So I put out a message asking you for your top tips on working virtually or working from home. And thank you so much. You responded to those. I'm not going to go through all of them. But thanks for the pictures of the whiteboards and the blackboards and all the different ideas about how we can work well from a remote location. For most of us, that's going to be home. I've been working from home certainly over the last 5 years. I live in France, obviously, as you know, and so what I love about it is that I get out of bed, go and do what I need to do in the morning, and I'm at my desk, so there's no travelling time or costs. That's one of the greatest benefits. And what I want to say to you today is that for every one of your team who's thinking, great, virtual working, it's wonderful, there may be some others who have some concerns, and I'm going to touch on those for in a minute. So the purpose of today was look at how to work virtually effortlessly. And like anything that becomes effortless, it requires a bit of practice and a bit of experimentation. So none of us is going to get it right first time. We're just going to have to go with the flow a little bit, see what works, review, and course correct as we go along. So firstly, I want to think about the tech. Hello, Denise. Nice to see you here. I'm no techie, as my husband will tell you. But there's lots of different platforms out there, as I'm sure you know. Most people I know that work for themselves tend to use Zoom because it's really, really easy and it's well priced. But you've got other stuff like Microsoft Teams, you've got WebEx. I mean, there's just so many nowadays. And of course, what I think is important about the tech is that you have a video camera so that when you've got a team meeting, you can actually see each other, because that does make a big difference. The other thing I would say is many of you may be familiar with working in this way already, but there may be some people who aren't. And I find now in my coaching practice, which I do virtually, some people say, well, I've never used Zoom before, I'm not quite sure, I'm a bit nervous. So one of the recommendations I make is, once you've decided on what tech you've got, that you do a little bit of a mini training session for everybody, or you get somebody to do it, because there's some really, really good features that can really help you be effective. So things like being able to share your screen, things like being able to mute yourself, things like being able to go into breakout rooms. Some of the platforms allow that. So think about how the tech can help you work much more effectively. And of course, think about how you might continue to use it when life as we know it is back to normal, whenever that will be. So get your tech sorted, let everybody be really clear and confident in how to use it. The other thing I want to say is the conversations that need to take place with your team members. And I think it's so easy to forget that, because, as I said at the beginning, some people will think working from home, working virtually, fab. Some people will think, I'm not really sure about that. So let's think about what might be on people's minds. They might live in really small spaces and be worried about having space and time to concentrate on their work. They might have a partner or another family member working from home as well and are worried about the distractions there. They might be in a relationship that's not great, and being at home is actually not the place that they want to be. whatever their situation, what we as leaders have to do is just have that conversation with people and say, what's on your mind about home working? What are you hoping for? Any concerns? How do we make it work? What might we need to do to make it work for you? So please do have those one-to-ones, because I think they're really, really important. And it is important that people feel comfortable and can make everything work as well as it needs to be. I said at the beginning that if for the first time your team is all going to be working virtually, you're not going to get everything right first time. You're not going to know how to make it work perfectly. But here are the things that I think will help you make it work well. Firstly, I think you need to decide how many times a week, let's say, that you want to meet as a team and for what purpose. So you might want to mix up a little bit of, we're here to focus on the work in this meeting, but now next meeting we're going to have 15 minutes and have a virtual coffee break and a chit chat, because what people miss from the office environment is that connection with other human beings, that being able to have a coffee together, have a little bit of a water cooler chat. And it's really important that we continue those in some ways, because otherwise some people will start to feel really isolated, and that won't help them, and it won't help the team, and it won't help their productivity or your productivity. I think for the very first meeting, let's say your working week starts on a Monday, it's really good to do a check-in first thing with everybody. And you need to be really succinct, as you do in face-to-face meetings, but I think more so when you're talking virtually. And it's great maybe to have a 3-minute check-in with everyone. How are you feeling as we start this week of working virtually? Any concerns? What are you looking forward to? And what are the things that we're going to focus on over the week ahead? And then you decide how often you want to meet virtually for the rest of that week. There's something else I want to say, because I know it's a bit of an issue when people are working from home. People say to me sometimes, well, I've got to respond to my boss's email because otherwise she or he will think I'm not working. Please don't fall into that trap. You know, doing good work is not about responding to emails straight away. In fact, it often takes us away from the things that are most important. So as a leader, I suggest that you set some ground rules, agree them with the team about checking in emails. You might say, right, you know, I'm going to be responding at lunchtime and at the end of the day, and I expect you to do the same. So make up some rules that are going to work for you, because otherwise people are just going to be responding just to show that they're at their desk. That's the equivalent of presenteeism, isn't it? I'm here, but actually I'm not doing my best work. So have a think about how you make that work. Meeting ground rules. Meetings are done appallingly, as we know, in so many teams, in so many organisations, and it's the same virtually. So I think some ground rules are really important. You decide what they are. One of the articles that I've shared a lot was a New York Times article about how Google, I can't remember the exact name of the article, but Google's quest to find the perfect team. It was something like that. And they found really there were no hard and fast rules. It was about each team deciding how best they would be able to work together. So that's something that I suggest you do. But I think in terms of etiquette, lovely old-fashioned word that, isn't it? I think if you're on a virtual meeting, you're on a virtual meeting. You're not on your phone, you're not doing your emails, you are present. And I would suggest that as a sensible ground rule, if you will, for everybody. The final thing I want to say, and it's probably the most important, is around trust, because there is no other choice. You have to trust your team to do what they need to do. Now, my recommendation is always that you let people work flexibly, unless there's core hours that they have to be on email or at the end of a phone. You know, if someone works best getting up at 5 in the morning and finishing a little bit after lunchtime, is that a problem? Probably not. Or if they want to start a bit later and work a bit later, is that a problem? Probably not. You know, you can't police whether people are on Instagram or whether they're reading the news or whether they're watching Netflix. You can't. So all you can do is trust that people will be working with integrity and will be their best selves. So if you're a manager who likes to micromanage and be in control of everything, great time for you to be able to step away from it and relax a little bit more. So plan that first week, and I would say at the end of the first week, have some time to discuss what worked, what didn't work, what will we do differently in the week ahead. So then you've got chance to evaluate, to review and reflect. I'm just reading the comments here, and Denise has said on the webcam, look directly into the camera too. It's funny because my camera is actually above my screen, so it's taken a little bit of practice to look into my webcam. So again, it's one of the things that you can practice when you're doing your virtual meetings. So in summary, I think I would say get your tech right and let people have a bit of a practice so they can get confident and familiar with it before you do your first meeting. Secondly, have those one-to-ones with people. Just check out how they're feeling about working virtually, whether there's any workarounds you might need to do, whether there's any concerns you have or they have about working from home or working virtually. The next one is just use your first week as a practice arena. See what works, see what doesn't, and course correct for the following week. And establish some ground rules so that when you're meeting virtually, you're making the best use of your time. And have a little bit of a mix up between work type meetings and the water cooler, let's have a chat and just see how we're doing type meetings. Because without that connection, without that human connection, it's going to be quite a challenge for many of us. So I hope those tips are useful. I'd love to hear what other ideas you can share. And tomorrow I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live, and I'm going to be answering any questions that you've got around this whole new landscape that we're in. So some of you have posted them already over the last couple of days. Please put them in the Facebook chat group. If you're watching this live broadcast somewhere other than in Facebook, please do join us in the Effortless Leader Revolution, because we've got 1,500 people supporting each other, sharing ideas, helping each other. And if you're a leader who's wanting to thrive in this time of chaos and uncertainty, I would love you to join us. So thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.